Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Paulo. We'll be waiting probably a couple more minutes before we get started. So just stay on the line. For those that just joined, we'll be waiting another minute before we get started. All right, I think we can get the presentation and the show underway. So obviously, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I see a lot of familiar names from across the world. So thanks for taking the time and joining the session. For those of you that do not know me, I am Paulo. I take care of the sales and partnerships and alliances here at Answer Modules. And on the line with me today is Patrick, our CEO and CTO. And essentially today, we would like to show you what is new in the latest and greatest version of the module suite, and that is v3.0, which was recently released. And in order, let's say, to do this, we have a pretty straightforward agenda. So just one quick slide explanation on what is the module suite for those that are, let's say, seeing this for the very first time. And then I'll hand things off to Patrick for, say, an explanation, but also live demonstrations of the new functionalities and features of 3.0. And at the very end, obviously, we'll be having Q&A. This does not mean that you have to wait until the very end to ask your questions. Just drop them into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll get to them at the very end. All right, so in short, what is the module suite? What is essentially our flagship product? For those of you that haven't heard about it or first time seeing it, it is an add-on solution for the Content Suite and xECM platform. So lives 100% within the CSP and xECM environment. And its purpose is really to allow you to easily personalize that platform, and equally importantly, create tailored business solutions. So being able to enhance, extend what can be done with that platform, so that essentially, if you have any sort of business requirements that you think should be or could be addressed on the CSP platform, ours is the enabling technology for you to essentially say yes to any sort of requirements. Now, three, let's say, key aspects of the module suite, or UVPs of the module suite, are first and foremost, and the fact that with our technology, you'll be able to essentially unlock and open up to new use cases on the Content Suite xECM environment. You'll be able to actually do this in a very quick and efficient manner. This is because the module suite is all about low coding, and you'll be able to essentially deliver solutions that the business requires, not in months, not in weeks, but in days. So very, very strong savings on the effort and obviously the cost part. And last but not least is whatever you create with the module suite, it does not mean that is set in stone for the ages. Whatever you create with the module suite, you can easily go back, modify, edit, and maintain in the long term as the business evolves and as the business requirements changes down the line. So that's in short, what is the module suite? But I think obviously we're all here for the start of the show, 3.0. Quite a significant release, and I'll let Patrick go over what's in it, show you what's new, and just walk you through it.
Thank you, Paolo. I will take from here as soon as you will stop sharing the screen. Thank you. So yes, there is a lot of new functionalities and features coming into this new release codenamed Generoso. And we are very, very excited. For us, this is definitely to be considered a major release. We invest a lot in guaranteeing that this is a sort of catch-all release, so you can still work with the 3.0. Doesn't matter which version of content server you are in, as you will see from release notes. 3.0 supports from 16.2.8 up to the very latest 21.2. And by the end of this week, we are going to certify Model Suite 3.0 for the usage with Content Suite 21.3 that has been just released. So that is as I mentioned, is in our vision the release to go and to upgrade to. There are a lot of new functionalities in it, and we want to cover each one of them during today's session. So let me take from where Paolo left us. So the first functionality, new feature that I'd like to talk about is the new library version for beautiful web forms. It is a brand new library, but it's also a brand new technology. So the beautiful web forms, the widgets that you can utilize to build beautiful web forms from now on, they will be based on a reactive JavaScript framework, more specifically Vue.js. And this will allow us to have a very nice user experience, because a lot of the server-side manipulation of the form object that we used to do on content scripts, again, in server-side, is now moved directly into the user browser, which means that there is less pressure on the servers. The solution is definitely faster, and the kind of thing that you can do without having to write a lot of JavaScript to manipulate the page, it is increased. So you will be able to do more things on client side, but without the need to write a lot of JavaScript. And that's because we have, again, based the libraries on Vue.js, so reactive solution. And you will see that we have already created a sort of client-side APIs that are very similar to the one that you are used to in content script. So they are very much very close. And so for the one of you that already work with beautiful web forms on server side using content script, you will find yourself at home also with this new JavaScript client-side library. The two solutions, they are the client-side JavaScript library and API, and the content script server-side API have been designed to work together, meaning that you will still be able to manipulate the form on the server side through content script when needed. What you will have now is the opportunity to do some of this computation on the servers on the client side. So let's see one of these forms in action to understand what it is about and how it will work and how you will work with them. So I've created a very simple form here that basically starts a workflow. So let me open this form for you, and let's dig into the the form builder to see how we have utilized the new reactive solution to build a form. So this is the form, and it's loading. And okay, I had to open it this way. And as you see, the look and feel, it is still very similar to the previous one. We based the solution, as I mentioned, on Vue.js as a core framework. We have adopted Bootstrap View as a library for the widgets. So it's a library of Vue component that we've utilized to create our own widgets. But the configuration of the widgets will still be the same. So you're still working directly with the form builder. You will have the opportunity to configure the widget directly from here. You will have the opportunity to do more complex things here, and you will have the opportunity to utilize Bootstrap View component directly into your HTML. So you will be able to either, for example, in the custom HTML widget, to write HTML or to leverage the existing beautiful Bootstrap View components to create it. Let me show you briefly how this will work. So the changes that you will apply to the form, they are now, most of them, they are implemented again directly on client side. You will always have validation in place, obviously, so everything will still be validated on the client and server side. But again, you will have the opportunity to manipulate the form and the data displayed again with API that works on the client side. So for example, here, if I select a bunch of these switches, if I select A77, what happened is that the system is basically changing the values available for this LEDs field, and is also displaying a warning message. Okay, so and these changes to the view, they were performed directly on the browser, so there is no interaction with the server in any way. The template, the view templates, they are also leveraging this new technology. So, for example, in here we have the possibility now to drop an entire folder structure. So here I'm working with a workflow. So I'm starting a workflow. I can drop an entire folder structure. Now the system offers me the possibility to navigate inside this folder structure and perform different tasks over what I'm saying. We also have the possibility to add the documents directly from the desktop or content server or a shortcut. So the view template has been enhanced to cover more usage scenario, and again works very similar to the one that you have been used to work with. Let's see how this is configured. So how, for example, clicking on this pencil, I enable the date picker, and now changing the value of the date picker, I return the date picker in read-only mode. Okay, so that is done in a very easy way. So the conditions over when and how elements in the form must be displayed, they works exactly as you are used to work with the previous version of Beautiful Web Forms. The main difference is now that the model that you are referring to is not a server-side model, but is basically a client-side representation of the model. But the show if conditional configuration, they work exactly the same. So I can set a condition here to display the error message only if among these values we have A77, for example. We have the possibility to work with again the standard constraint for Beautiful Web Forms. So you can apply constraints as you were used to. You will also have the possibility to trigger action, and this is the first main difference. So now actions, they can be of two kinds. So you can have client-side action or you can have server-side action. So what the framework does is, first of all, looking for a client-side action. So whenever you have an element in the interface that triggers an action, the framework, first of all, looks for a client-side action, so a client-side implementation of this action. If it doesn't find one, we'll basically call a server-side action as in the previous version, and which means that you will be able to manipulate the form object on server side as you were used to do. Okay, the client-side action is actually pretty simple. So basically, you have a set of APIs that work on a form object. So this is plain JavaScript file. And as I mentioned, you will be able to work directly on the model. So in order to perform changes, given the reactive framework, you will be able to just change the model, and these changes will be automatically reflected in changes in the user interface. So for example, in the inspection date, we set that the inspection date field must be read-only because if this value in the view params map is true. So based on this value, we decide if we need to display this in read-only or not. And if we look at the unload script, so this is a very similar to the previous iteration, how you were used to do things. As you see, we are setting the initial value for that property on server side in the content script editor. So this is the initial value. So whenever we trigger an action here, so we trigger the change date action. The change date action just reassign the value of this variable to the exact opposite as it used to be. And what we did is to configure the date picker so that when the value of the date picker changes, we have the possibility to change date. The widgets that are now part of this library, as you will see, we have still a reduced number of widgets. The main reason we have a reduced number of widgets is that the widgets library is obviously growing, is brand new, but also because we increase the capabilities of several widgets. So we now have widgets that, for example, for displaying the groups or people in a specific group and etc. And we have increased what each widget can do. So you will be able to do more with a single widget. And you will be able to manipulate many of these widgets in several interesting ways. So for example, here, working with View, you will be able to manipulate the date picker so that the date picker will display, for example, here shortcuts to common dates. So 10 days ago, yesterday, or the today date. So it will be very easy for you to manipulate and modify what this widget will be able to do and display. And again, it is way easier than it used to be to create widgets that offers you a greater level of configuration. And the other example I'd like to show you here is this chain data. So this is another example in which we were basically performing some manipulation. So we have an API to get the value of a specific field. We have utilities in place that helps us in writing the JavaScript functions. More specifically, we have access to Lodash, in this case, the library, which is very convenient for manipulating collections and objects in JavaScript. And we will be able to write this kind of thing. So if the value of the field contains 877, we will change the custom var in the view params, assigning a new set of values. And this is interesting because the LEDs here, the checkbox from list, they are basically utilizing a view params variable to display the values. So at the end, we will be able to manipulate the values displayed in the checklist directly on client side very effectively, just changing the value of it. Okay. And so at the same time, we will be able to set elements in read-only, to hide them, to display them, etc., etc. And everything will happen on client side. The possibility of working so much on client side opened a very new, interesting opportunity, and which is turning these forms into progressive web application, so that this form can be installed on devices as applications. They can work offline, and they can be utilized by users offline. So I have here an example of the same form leveraging the PWA template. So if we look at the other view that we have created, so utilizing the same V5 library, we have now a dedicated template that allows us to publish this form as a progressive application. We have an endpoint that allows us to turn this into progressive application. And for the one of you that doesn't know much about progressive application, they are an emerging standard for implementing application to be delivered on multiple devices. So it's sort of application that is basically executed inside the browsers and leverage the browser APIs to allow you to work offline, to improve the performances of the application, because you have quite different possibilities in terms of what you can cache on the device of the user. And they provide an experience and a user experience that is very close to a native application. So that said, let me show you how it works. So I have here a progressive web application built with that form. As you will see, the first difference you will notice here is that the system is prompting me to install the application. So I can install the application on this device. And you will see when you define the application with the application builder, you will be able to provide the icons you want to utilize, the name of the application, the description, the splash screens you want to utilize, etc. So I have a video to showcase that I shot this morning to show you how this application can actually be deployed on a mobile device. And so to do that, I utilized my personal phone, and what I did was to open this form, utilize the QR code from Chrome to get the address of this form and install it on my device. So let me show you how it works on a mobile device. And I have to show you a video just because the most important part of this video is that at a certain point I will put the device in airplane mode, and so obviously it won't have access to the network. So this is not something that I can show you in live streaming. So as you see here, what I'm doing is I'm accessing the URL. So the system is opening up the form. The next thing I do is to click the add to the home button, and I am basically installing the application on my iPhone. Okay, when the application is installed, it goes on the home page of your form, and with the name you provided with the manifest. So each application comes with a manifest in which you can specify which resources must be available, how the logo or the icon to be utilized by the application, the splash screen if you want to have one, and other information related on which resources must be cached on the device. So what I can do next, I open it, I look at the splash screen, I logged into content server because the system needs to download all the assets and the files that made this application. So once the application is loaded, what I can do is to close it and turn the network off. Okay, so now we are working on a device that is offline. So we still can open the form, we can still open the application, and I will be able to work with the application and with all the business logic, as I told you, most of it will work just on client side. So I will be able to fill in my form and eventually even to upload files. They will be stored locally on the device. So when I submit the form, what the system will do is detecting that we are offline. So instead of trying to reach content server to send the data, we store the data locally in the web storage of the device and registering the record for a later submission. Okay. So what I'm doing now is turning back the iPhone online, and I'm reopening the form. And you will see here we have at the top right of the page, we have a button that allows us to display the pending submissions. I can see the submission that are pending. I can delete them from the device. I can load them. So to review the data that was actually provided. And at the end, when I'm satisfied, I can just synchronize it back to content server. And that will basically generate a regular submission of your form on content server. So depending on what your form is configured to do, you can just save the data. You can create a connected workspace, for example. You can start a workflow, whatever you want. That will be what the system is going to do. And because you are offline, obviously, if you have an error in submission, that error can be displayed back into the user interface. That's it for reactive forms, and this is obviously the technology we are going to invest in the future. We are going still to support for some time, obviously, the previous version of the libraries, so version 4 and version 3. So you don't have to worry, you don't have to rush to version 5, because again, we are going to support for some years the previous version, but this is definitely the technology we are moving forward. And as I show you, there are good reasons why we're doing it. The next slide. Doesn't really work. PowerPoint was unstable and is basically crashing my PC.
I think if you like, I can present from my side.
Yeah, thank you.
Just 1 second.
The problem is that is taking over everything. So let me try to stop sharing, see if things go better. Not really.
Shall I start presenting in the meantime? Sharing my screen, I mean? Okay. I believe this was the next one, correct?
Just a second, because I was able to start the task manager. So I killed the power. Okay, so the next thing that we want to show you is an update of an application that you should already know, and it's named Form Studio. So what we did was to, can you stop sharing, Paolo? So what we did was to enhance the previous version of this application, and just to recall to everybody what Form Studio was meant for, was a solution, an application that was shipped with Model Suite. Is a Model Suite application actually that allowed you to create a form and a template and a base workflow out of an Excel definition of a process of a form. So you will be able to provide a set of fields that you want to have in the form, and the system will take care of creating all the objects on content server. So we enhanced it, and what we did was to introduced the possibility of defining application templates. So the first thing that we did was to refactor and revisit the interface. But most importantly now, what you can do is, for example, decide where you want to create the application. So say that I'm working webinar and studio. And now you will have the possibility to upload, as previous before, the definition for the form. And this will work exactly the same. But now when you select the workflow, you will be able to select from a list of workflow templates that will be created by the application. And these are workflows that you can configure. So say that I assign it a title, so expenses workflow and approval. And I provide the starting message here. I provide the short description, for example, here. And I can provide the conditional fees. So this is a two-step workflow in which basically we have a manager and a requester, and the manager should approve the request that was kicked off by the requester. So we have a field in the form that we can use to determine if the workflow must be approved. So if we look at our Excel template, I have a field name, I think was manager approves. So I can take the name of this field, okay? So I think by default, it is something like approved or not. I can specify which is the conditional field and which is the value for this conditional field. So I can say here, yes. And I can provide the URL, external URL for my content suite. When I hit save, what the system is doing is creating the entire application. So it's no longer creating just the form, but it's configure everything. So it's basically has created the workflow. The workflow has been already configured. So I have the, if we look at the workflow, we have the workflow map created. We have the two steps already configured to use the proper form. We have the if statement, so the gateway already configured to check for the field and the value that we provided. And most importantly, we have that for each user step, we have configured an event script that runs a script that notifies the user by email. And at the end of the workflow, we have an event script that is configured to generate a PDF summary, okay? So the only thing that we need to do in order to start utilizing the application is actually to edit the views that we're going to utilize in the workflow. So I can open my views with the form builder. So I can start from the view of the requester. And what I'm going to do is to remove the submit button because it is already in the template I'm going to utilize. So version 4. And I can, for example, set up the default value for the employee to the current user. And that's it. So I can close now this one. And I will be able to start a new workflow. So, and this workflow will display the user, allowing him to select the manager. I can define the expenses, some info here. I can have an additional row, under some other. And I forgot to remove this field. We can keep it as it is. I can send it on. What the system is doing is starting the workflow with the description we provided and sending out a custom email with, by default, the information that we provided in the form and links to one of our scripts that is acting as a proxy. So if the steps is assigned to a group of users, what it does is automatically accepting the task and then redirecting the user to the specific task. And before to use it, let me change the review view that we're going to use to approve. So what I'm going to do is to change this one again. We're going to utilize Smart View task, and we are going to remove this one. We're going to remove this one, and probably we are going to put this one in read-only. And we are going to have a yes, no widget utilized for the approval. So I can put a yes, no widget here and configured it to be bind to the manager approves field, and saved it and say is not in line, and say here that is it approved. Save, I can save it. So now if I open the task from the email I received, I can see the form that I've just created. I have the possibility to approve or not. And if I approved it, what the system does is to end the workflow, redirect me on the home page. But if we go back to the folder where we were, you will see that the last script was kicked in. And again, in Studio here, we have in workflow has been created a folder, current year, current month, or current day, workflow ID, and inside of it, a PDF document containing the basically the basics information about the comments of the workflow, the audit trail of the workflow, and the form data provided. Okay, so this is obviously a template. You can start from here, customize how the report is created. You can customize the message. You can customize the business logic. You can customize the fields. But you'll see this is a great accelerator, allow you to create an application really in a matter of minutes. And most importantly, we are just creating the foundations, because we can now deliver and ship with the model suite more workflow templates, more application templates, and we are going to do that in the next months. So the idea is to come up with 10 different workflows templates before the end of the year. Okay, so to cover other scenarios, not just this very simple one. And obviously, as for many other things in contents in model suite, the templates are nothing but basically objects stored into a folder of the dedicated volume. So we have templates for Beautiful Webform Studio, and in here you have all the objects that are part of these applications. So you have the builder and the description that are utilized to build and describe the application, and you have all the other assets that you can modify yourself. And what we want to invite your partners to do is to start thinking about creating these templates by themselves and deliver these templates to customers, because we can see the value for this kind of application and asset to be deployed to customer owning the model suite. Paolo, let me try to reopen PowerPoint and see if I can. No. Okay. So we're seeing this process is super simple. You download the Excel file, you configure it, the system automatically configures you for you the workflow and the application. The only thing that is left is for you to fine tune it modifying through the editors that we provide, the view, the look and feel, etc. In the next templates, we are going also to cover smart pages. So we're also going to create dashboards for smart UI. So that is another aspect that you will be able to cover. And again, the main purpose of this kind of accelerator is to allow you to, again, move your knowledge from the people to the application to the system, and to speed up development so that you will be able to create more application and leverage the solution much better. As I mentioned, so we are working on a list of at least 10 new templates of application we want to deliver. And here is the list. And this is a call for ideas. So we really want you to be part of this conversation. So we like to hear from you which templates you like to see implemented first, or which template is, in your opinion, most relevant, so to guide our R&D development in this area. As you might have noticed, Model Suite 3.0 also introduces a new editors. So all the IDEs have been updated. In each IDE, we introduce new functionalities and feature. Some are small, some others are more important. There are a couple in the content script editor that are very interesting. So the first one that I'd like to talk to you is the possibility of having a remote repository of snippets. So when you open a content script, and when you work with a content script in your system, you always have on the left sidebar, the list of snippets you can utilize to create your script. And as you see here, I have installed on my system a very little number of snippets. And this is because I enabled the possibility to have remote repositories. So I can fetch the list of snippets from an answer models repository, a third-party repository, OpenText, a partner, or you can create your own repository, so not to have to install all your snippets every time on the server. You will be able to create, again, this remote repository and to utilize them very easily as they were on the system. So I will be able, for example, to work with Smart UI menu, command, and the way they work is exactly as if they were on your system in the volume. We have done this to simplify the deployment, to being able to provide you quicker new snippets and to offer you better support, and to enable partner to do the same. So this is an invitation for partners to consider to develop their own snippet repositories and to make them available to the community of users of Model Suite. The other interesting new functionalities is the possibility, so some improvements in the usability of the solution. So first of all, we have introduced in all the new editors the possibility to filter the snippets or the widgets. So you can now, as I did here, just search for the snippet. You have the possibility in the editor to change very quickly the look and feel of the editor. We have much more skins to choose from, and you have the possibility to display the model suite log file, to rotate it, and it is a much more convenient way of displaying the log file, because now you can adjust the position of the log file where it is displayed, decide how big should be the page, etc. And the same thing goes for the testing. So I can now test the execution, and I can move this page around if I want. I can also now change the log level for the device, sorry, for the script directly from this editor. So I will be able to do something like from here, changing the log level to error. So if I run this script, there will be nothing logged into the log file. But if I change it back to debug, which I think was the previous level, I will be able, upon execution, to see the result of the execution. So that will be logged directly in here. Another interesting functionality that we have introduced, which is currently in beta, is the possibility to have co-editing sessions. So what I will be able to do basically is that if I have two users, I will be able to start a co-editing session. So I will be able to invite a colleague of mine or answer module support or a partner support to help me with my script. And I can start this session here. And on the other editor, I will be able to join it. And so what will happen is basically that I will be able to help my user and work with my colleague, providing him some code and work together to writing the code that we're working on, and work together on the project or the scripts that we are editing. It's a great tool. It's a peer-to-peer communication. So the server you are connecting to at the beginning of the session is a signaling server, meaning that there is no information sent to this server, but only the information about the peers that are connected for peers discovery. So the communication is done peer-to-peer, so there is no a central repository where the communication is sent and download from. Other aspects that we want to cover, where we have obviously an entire set of new APIs and improvements to Smart Pages. But the most interesting thing with Smart Pages, the biggest enhancements is the possibility of having a very fine-grained control over how the changes are applied in Smart Pages. So I have here in SmartUI, as you see here, in this page, I have an additional menu that is, I can utilize to perform actions such as let module suite 30 say hello. I can have the studio here having two of these actions available, so say hello, create application, etc. And all this is controlled by the configuration and context script volume. So we have now a much more fine grain of defining how the customization must be applied. So we are basically introduced with 2.9 the possibility to have a single script for defining multiple commands. So here I have the single script that is defining all the commands that we are seeing for this application. And the override, on the other hand, has been optimized. So now it's a more complex logic. So we have the possibility of defining global scripts that are executed all the time. We have the possibility to define tenants that are a way for isolating customization to a portion of our repository. Inside this portion of our repository, we can decide how apply customization. So for example, we want to apply customization only for a certain type of document or to all documents, etc. And these scripts, they are executed in a chain, and the fact that they are executed in a chain allows us to override customization applied by general scripts when we have a more specific script or a more specific rule to be enforced. So exactly as I did here, so we have a general script that add this menu, and I have specific rules to decide that for this object here, I need another command available. And if we dig into it, we will see that we have, not this one. If we dig into the Smart UI, we'll see that we have demo folders. I have still a folder. I have the same menu here. We have the standard columns, the standard information for the document displayed. But if I dig into the folder A, I will have a completely different look and feel for the columns. So we have basically removed the standard columns. We have added some of our custom columns with custom information displayed, but we still have the same command available for these two folders, where actually we override the previous one and we add release notes to the mix. Okay, so and everything is done from the content script volume, and you will be able to configure these rules and how they are and how the information is displayed and performed very easily and very efficiently, because we worked a lot in 3.0 around performances over these customizations. And what the system allows you now to do is to define all these structures and then cache them per the user, so they will be the user experience will be very nice. The impact of these changes, of this announcement, will be very reduced, almost invisible to the user. So we did a lot of work in optimizing performances for being able to apply these changes and this customization in a very effective way. And with it, I think we ended our journey. Yes, and it's probably now time to answer some of your questions.
So, Patrick, there are a few questions that came through in the Q&A panel and the chat. So I don't think you'll be able to read them because you're sharing. So let me just read them to you. First one is, I think we went over this, is 3.0 compatible starting from 16.28 onwards? I believe the answer is yes.
Yes.
Then next question, what is the client-side JavaScript target? Does it transpile to ES5 or does it keep it as ES6?
Is it transpiled? Is it transpiled?
Next one is the forms with Vue.js feature is only available in Smart View or also applicable to other types of templates?
No, they're also applicable to other templates. So for the time being, we work specifically to the Smart View, but as you know, we are going to deliver more templates over time, and there's nothing specific to Smart View.
Right. If you want to upgrade to 3.0, what happens with my nodes or objects created in past versions?
So the procedure covered these this situation. So the most important element that you have in your system, they are the objects in the volume, and they will be upgraded if necessary as part of the upgrade. For all the other objects, you don't have to be worried about, and even the view. So we haven't released yet an updated version of the Beautiful Form Updater, because it's a slightly more complicated this time to support an automatic update of the views we are working on, and will be soon released. So you will be soon able to upgrade a Beautiful Web Form view created with library version 4 to library version 5 automatically through the Beautiful Web Form Updater, as you did for version 3 to version 4.
Okay. Next question is, are remote repositories Git-based?
They can be, actually. So the remote repository is just a couple of files, actually. So it's a We keep them very simple, is a couple of JSON files to be deployed wherever basically you have a web server to host them. And so it can be a Git-based repository if you want.
Yeah, there was two other questions that relate to that. They were where we can install repositories and
so, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And the other one was the widgets repositories, or for example, GitHub or something like that, or is it special? So I think you answered both those questions.
No, the second one, yes. The first one is you configure the repositories you want to use in the base configuration, so you can have up to 10 different repositories configured, and for each one of them, you basically configure the name you want to be displayed in the editor and the URL where the repository is.
And the last question I see it's coming from the chat is there any commercial impact on the licenses when upgrading through 3.0?
No.
Short answer is no. As long as customer has an active maintenance, then they can easily upgrade to 3.0.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember everybody, the tagline for Model Suite is a value that grows over time. So we are keep delivering new functionalities and features as part of the suite. And this is definitely one of the reasons our customers love the investment they made. So the next release will coming soon. As you probably noticed, we started utilizing the scene landmarks as code names for our releases. So starting to push some of these beautiful places around the world, the knowledge about these beautiful places around the world. Next release is scheduled for September. Between here and September, we are obviously going to deliver additional functionalities in the form of new application templates for Form Studio, new widgets for V5 and V4 library, etc. So Ascona will be the next release. We'll have probably additional APIs available, but for all the, let me say, the small extension mechanisms that I've demonstrated today, you can expect new releases in the next weeks. You don't have to wait for till September.
Patrick, actually, one question came in again.
Yep.
So regarding templates, are templates part of the installers?
Yes, they are shipped with the installers, and the other templates for applications that we're going to deliver, they will be delivered in the form of a volume update. So there is the import tool for content script volume that is part of Model Suite, and you will receive a library for updating it when we're going to release new template for application. And as again, the invitation to all of you is to reach to us and tell us which, in your opinion, should be the next application template we should work on, and what do you want us to implement as an application template because you think that you're going to utilize it and you want to leverage it.
All right.
I think we're at the top of the hour.
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour. There's no other questions. So I think we can wrap it up here. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time that you could attend. And again, as Patrick mentions, if there are any questions or requests or suggestions, reach out. You know we're always available. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening, and enjoy the rest of the summer.
Bye, everybody.